Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Mogobe. Welcome yet again to another exciting, wonderful and really information-filled episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom. It's always a privilege and an honor to come to you and bring you yet another illustrious entrepreneur. And do I have one for you this time around? I have with me Mr. Ram of CHOPPIES. And as usual, I always want my guests to be the ones who introduce themselves. Mr. Ram, can you tell the listeners who you are and share a little bit of your background?
Thank you. As you said it clearly that illustrious, okay? And I look forward to you as also illustrious, okay? You've been also a good model. I've been watching as well, your growth and your success. I want to mention that first before we start the interview. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ramachandran Ottapathu. Call me Ram for short form. And I'm the CEO of CHOPPIES Enterprises Limited. And we do have other businesses as well. I came in 1992 to work as an accountant in Botswana, and circumstances and chances, all these things led me into business. And today, yes, we are. I'm leading one of the biggest private sector enterprise in Botswana, and we do have businesses in some other southern African countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, and that's me. Thank you.
Thank you. We're delighted to have you here, and I'm a bit nervous. I've never had an opportunity to interview such a man of such stature, so it's a privilege. It's really mine. We're going to talk today about CHOPPIES, the African growth story, because CHOPPIES is a product of Botswana. It is a company about which we are very proud. I'm going to start right from the beginning. As the CEO of CHOPPIES, what success principles guided you in your role in CHOPPIES?
Thank you. First and foremost, have a dream and follow the dream. Okay. Do what you love and love what you do. This is what I've been doing. Okay. We had a vision, we had a dream, and consistently and relentlessly followed that. Irrespective of the path, we had a lot of road humps, blocks, and everything was there. But we took that pain, and it was a difficult journey, but I enjoyed it. And I'm sure all the people who travel with me also have enjoyed it. When we used to tell that, when we had one store, then we used to tell that we will be the biggest supermarket in Botswana. People used to look at us and
some were laughing.
We had one store, just a small store, and that's how it started. When we started our first store in Gaborone, and we saw the response, we knew that we will be the biggest supermarket chain by far in this country in years to come. So we enjoyed the journey, and people along with us also have done that, I'm sure.
Okay, still on that point, how was what is your professional training, and how was the transition from being perhaps a professional to becoming an entrepreneur in the true sense of the word?
I'm a qualified accountant. Okay, it did help in understanding the figures and analyzing the figures. Okay, beyond that, I wouldn't say that an entrepreneur and education has anything to do with each other. An entrepreneur, he works in an entirely different way. being a qualified accountant, I have seen it along with when I sit with another accountant, and if I talk business and the way in which we exchange, interact, clearly there is a big difference between an entrepreneur and a professional.
It's almost like you need a brain transplant to go from one to the other, isn't it? A different set of thinking.
Yeah, you almost right in the sense that the vision and the thought process are two different. It's completely different.
And what is the key difference, you think?
It's the vision, the vision and the depth of your journey. You know, when we say that when you start in a place, you walk into a place, okay, and if you are a businessman, you see that there's opportunity there, and you tell that to an accountant. He said, "No, this is a barren land. There's hardly any traffic going through this road. How are you going to set up a shopping center?" Then he'll start calculating you. I stood here for 2 hours. I only seen 10 cars. If it is for 8 hours, I'll see another 80 cars. How many people is going to come into this center? They will just do the calculation. But we
that's exactly been my experience.
Yeah, we stand there and say, no, look, this is where the road is joining with another crucial road, and there's development going to come in the next 5 years' time. So if we put in some money in today, in 5 years' time, that will grow to certain degree. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. I'm always telling students and mentees and proteges, people who follow me, that commitment, resilience, and perseverance play a very important role in business and in entrepreneurship, especially in this market. How would you say these values have helped Choppies in the marketplace and especially dealing with competitors?
You know, when we started, we had one store, and our nearest opposition, which was ShopRite, those days they had around 1,000 stores. Today they got 1,600 or close to 2,000 stores. See, so there is no way, if you are a man who only makes decision based on calculation, we're not going to make it. So, and we said, look, this is what is happening in Botswana. What I did is, as basically, I looked at, I used to read a lot of foreign magazines like Fortune and other magazines. So we see generally supermarket makes 5% bottom line. Okay, if you look at our South African
profit,
bottom line, the net profit after all expenses.
Only 5%.
Only 5%. Yes, but it's a huge volume business. Then if you look at our counterparts in South Africa, they make much better than this. So that's why with one store we could compete with a guy who owns 900 or 1,000 stores.
So the key thing is volume, right?
Yeah, volume. And stay focused. Don't deviate. You'll have problems. You said perseverance, commitment. Yes, that's what it plays. It's you don't get anything easy. Yes, there are lucks, like you see it in overnight. You become billionaire or multi-billionaire. Those are accidents.
That's very rare.
That's very rare. You must be so lucky to be there. You must be so lucky to be a Mark Zuckerberg, or you must be so lucky to be a Bill Gates.
Okay. But even them, they worked hard.
Naturally, yes. But then the growth process is much shorter and much quicker. Okay. We didn't have that. Okay. We had to toil and make it up.
Still on the subject of commitment, correct me if I'm wrong. I think your store, which was previously called OK, which is by Western Bypass, was a key turning point, because it seems to me that once you changed from, it used to be OK, or I think you bought it from OK, became Choppies. There was a big turnaround. Am I right, or is it just it's just me?
No, you picked it correctly in the sense before that also we had a franchise. Okay, we were owning a Spar franchise, and the real turnaround come in when we had a franchise called Friendly Grocer. It's a South African franchise. When we started doing well in Botswana, the Friendly Grocer in South Africa started putting us under pressure. They wanted more buying to go through with them. They wanted more royalties. They wanted more money from us. So eventually,
they were squeezing you.
Squeezing. Basically, that's the right word. Undiplomatically.
Yes. Okay. I'm allowed to be undiplomatic. You can be diplomatic.
So they were squeezing us, and it came to a stage that we can't continue with this franchise. So one day, myself, Mr. Farouk, and the CEO of Metro was sitting and having a coffee in Game City. And he said, if you continue like this, I'm going to take this franchise away. We were waiting for that moment.
You're about to celebrate.
Because if you go and resign from the franchise, they're going to bring in all the penalty clause. You know, the lawyers will make, you are a lawyer,
yes,
you know,
I know
how to make thick agreements. And we were waiting for that word to come out of his mouth. The moment it came out, I said, sir, why can't you put that in writing to us?
Please.
So we will try our luck. If we fail, we'll come back to you. So please let us give us that opportunity to try our luck. So I'm going to do that. It was around 8:30 in the morning. By 9 o'clock, he phoned his secretary and said, cancel this guy's franchise. You know, his ego was running
in his head.
So he said, cancel this guy's franchise. By 9:30, we are out of that franchise. By 10 o'clock, we knew that Farouk Choppies is the family name. And that family name is synonymous to this country. Okay, so we didn't have to look around for a name. Okay, so that's Choppies Supermarkets. That's how.
So what used to be okay? Was it okay?
It was a franchise again from ShopRite. The same thing. They want to charge you franchise fee, this fee, that fee. Eventually, you end up working for them.
For them,
So that same way we can start the franchise.
With them. Okay, this is wonderful. Listen, you've mentioned the Chop family. You mentioned the family from Lobatse. But there might be a viewer there who doesn't know how it all started. So my question to you is, how did it all begin from small family business in Lobatse to be the giant of Southern Africa that we're so proud of today? I know you've told the story many times, but some people may not know.
You know, when we opened our third store in Gaborone, the Gaborone West store, the success was resounding. Then we had a mutual friend who inherited some money. So he told us, yes, he'll borrow that. Those days, we still can't get loans. I'll come back to that again.
You know, we'll deal with it.
We'll deal with it on the same interview and in a different way. So we couldn't get loans with the banks. They wanted double the value as security and this and that. And so he helped us to set up a few stores. So we borrowed money from him and we made him a 1/3 shareholder and we paid his loan back. And that was a real turning point as well. But that gave us a boost to growth.
Is it because you needed a lot of inventory, or it was just trucks and things like that, machinery to get the place started?
It is a costly affair if you want to really set up a nice supermarket, in the sense it will cost you at least 10 million pula to set up the fixtures and fittings.
Yes, even those days.
Those days it was costing us also around 7 million pula. So if you take it in dollar terms, it was $1.2 million, $1.3 million those days. And today it is $1 million means it's around 12 million pula. You see, that's an equation. So it was costly. On top of that, if you're not a credit guaranteed person in South Africa, to get stock from South Africa is going to be again another challenge. Those days, all the distributors were mainly in South Africa. We didn't have that many distributors locally available. So that was also a challenge.
Okay. Do you have a relationship with individual distributors? Like
yes.
What, CA Sales and so on?
Yes. CA Sales used to support it. And even now, they played a very key role in our growth.
Oh, I see. Okay.
CA Sales, as the previous owners, even the current management also, have supported us. The previous management was giving us 100% support. It really helped us.
But you do have, in addition to that, you do have your own distribution network. Am I correct?
Yes. So that when we grow in size, yes, you can have your own distribution network. Until then, you needed support from the distributors.
Okay. Now, there's a thing called Choppies Hyper, which seems to be an important part of the franchise. What led to this? What was the impetus for coming up with Choppies Hyper? And am I right in saying there are 3 or 4 only in Gaborone? And and are they crucial part of the business?
When we have this bigger format, okay, that at one stage everybody was running behind the bigger format. Okay, we are not also not an exception, because when we see that company A is doing that, we'll also try to go and find out. We snoop around and find out what is going on in the market in South Africa. Then there was a trend whereby everybody was going for this bigger format. 15 years ago, that was the trend. Today it's changed. It is going back to convenience. Okay, and
convenience is
smaller size, compact size.
Yes.
And that, if you ask me where we make better money, is always from the smaller format.
Oh, I see.
Because it's a bigger size. Big box formats are expensive to maintain, and the net return is always lesser in the bigger formats.
There are some people who perhaps unfairly criticize Choppies for having closed down the small man and having, so much financial muscle that the small man cannot survive. What do you say to such a charge? Is it fair or is it unfair?
Every businessman got his role in the society to play. Whether it is you are very small, or if you take the much bigger chains, Choppies is nothing. If you could take the likes of Publix or Walmart or anybody.
Walmart, I'm told it employs over 2 million people.
Exactly, and in front of Walmart, there is a small man operating. He got his niche. Okay, so if you got your niche, you need to identify your niche, and you need to compete with the biggest of the biggest. That is how you survive, and everybody has to do that. That is the only way. We are only 30% of the market, so 70% is still available. And where people operate, even ShopRite, the so-called ShopRite, such a big organization in South Africa, there are so many. If I give the number, is 2,000 formal retail stores, 2,800 or something like that. The number. The smaller informal market is something like 89,000.
Really?
Yeah, in South Africa.
That's huge.
That's huge. The number is huge. Here also, the small traders are doing okay. They as long as you have your checks and balances in place, and you run your show in a tight manner, you will be able to survive.
All right. Now let's talk about something that is very topical: COVID-19. You and I have been wearing masks and restrictions. Everybody's crying, COVID this, COVID that. When it comes to Choppies, what has been the impact of COVID?
So we did lose turnover, but some of the turnover loss was intentional, in the sense we couldn't implement the social distancing in takeaway, butchery and bakery. So we cut down the activities.
Close them down?
We reduced the activity. Some of them shut down, some of them reduced the activity. We lost turnover of close to 300 million pula in that period.
Okay.
So look, that's one
heavy.
of it's heavy. Naturally, that loss has to be borne by us.
Okay. And what would be your advice to the struggling entrepreneurs such as myself and others who feel that COVID has been too much of a devastating blow? Do you have any ideas as to how we survive, how we regroup, and how we reposition ourselves?
My positive view is that Newton's law, whatever has gone down will come up. Whatever has come up will go down.
That's beautiful, yeah.
So you don't worry about what is gone down. It is going to come up. It's whatever a matter of whatever it is, irrespective of the business you are in, it is bound to come back. Okay. We just have to have the patience, and we need to have a little bit of support from the powers that may be, economically and politically as well, to especially keep the small man going. Okay, that's very important. Most of the countries have done it, and we need to do the same thing. We are not an exception. There, we need to get support from the financial institutions. Support from.
I'm glad you raised that point, because there's been talk about citizen economic empowerment. Yeah. It's something that is in everybody's lips.
Yes.
Indigenous citizens feel that they've been hard done by the system. But I know you have specific thoughts and views as to how this issue can be handled, and you in fact think that there's justification for looking at that issue separately.
Thank you to bring up this subject. My view is that we need to have clear policies in place to take care of our indigenous citizens. Okay? It has to come from the top regulator, which is Bank of Botswana, because they need to specify that economic empowerment is very, very important. If you lending money in our country, a portion has to go to agriculture. Okay? In that portion, you need to specify how much should they be given to the indigenous portion, and the next one is normal lending. Has to be a portion has to be for welfare lending. Then the balance of the portion, anybody can take any charge and any rate, and they can make money. Everybody is here to make money, but at the same time, we got a responsibility and an inherent duty to make sure that the sons of the soil are taken care. That is very, very important. Without that, no economic welfare. Economic welfare is empowerment on the grassroots level.
So, in your thinking, Mr. Ram, how do you believe the government can do it in terms of, can they impose it on the banks? Can they actually issue it as a law? Perhaps you can just elaborate a little bit on that.
If you take, I'll give you a classic example in India. Okay, where India was a totally agrarian and rural economy in the early 60s. Today it's not a middle income country yet. It's a long way to go, but still with that number of population, there's a lot of improvement. There's clear guidelines are there.
I think that some areas which are virtually first world, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So their lending is that I think around 14% of the lending should be to the agriculture sector. If the bank is lending 1 billion, 140 million must go to agriculture. In that, there's small agriculture sector, which is very small, sustainable farming, has to be so much. Okay. And industry, small scale, SMME. We're not going to see a big company from Europe bringing in a bag full of money to come and put into Botswana.
Well, the government is always talking about FDI. We see all these missions to overseas to get people here. What are your thoughts on that?
In the whole world, let me tell you a statistics. In the whole world, only 2% of the investment comes from in the form of FDI. 98% of the investment comes from within the companies in the country.
Really?
You check the statistics. You will see a big company is coming. Yes, they will come to dig minerals out of the country or other precious metals. Yes, they needed it, and we can improve that also. Botswana is a classic example whereby we have harnessed those resources and deployed it in a very economically equitable manner. There is no doubt about it. With all the problems we have, with this country have done extremely well in empowering
this
the
notion that FDI is a solution to our problem is misconceived.
It is to some extent it is misconceived. Very difficult to get. You get 1 or 2 investment, but 98% has to be our own citizens, our own companies has to do this in a way which is good for our country as well, because nobody is going to pack up and go.
So how, in the case of Choppies and maybe its sister companies, have you tried to empower citizens? I know that you provide for the consumers. That I accept. But have you consciously empowered your local partners? And in what way? Are there any specific examples? There's also the issue of charity involvement. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you. If you take agriculture, horticulture especially, when we started this journey in 2003, 2004, we may be around 95% importing products. Okay, so our agriculture imports have come down to around 45%.
Which means 55% is local.
It's big improvement. Okay?
Yes.
The farmers are just this farming, horticulture sector have progressed so well that when I told one farmer in Tuli block that you can do potatoes here, he said, yeah, I know how to do potato, but I am worried that the potato will be a problem because it's a big farming activity. He went and produced potato and he showed me a few bags. Then I told him, whatever money you wanted to plow on this thing, we will give you, provided you sell the product back to us. Okay, that's how it started. The first potato farming started like that in the country. I take pride in that because it's it's initiated by us, and then he produced potato, and believe me, the potato produced in Botswana is even better than the potato coming from the Western Cape.
Wow.
Yeah, the quality is so good.
And it's fresh.
It's fresh. And we need to, similarly, we need to just give, unfortunately, we need to make sure that there is proper statistics and proper information is disseminated to the farmers so that they can make informed decisions. Okay. And we can start up industries which can support the farming as well.
Yes, yes. And even on pricing, I'm sure you support them when it comes to that. So what about charity? You do get involved in that?
We do. We are a social player, you know.
I remember when you became my tenant at Khabani, that you were donating wheelchairs.
Yes.
Tell the viewers about that. I know you are a bit shy about talking about that.
No, look, here we started employing physically handicapped people as back as 94, 95. Okay. When Dr. Kama became the president, he put in a lot of effort in this driving that aspect of the physically handicapped people. Yes. At one stage, we were employing around 150 people, physically disabled.
Okay.
Okay. In terms of, we are still the big sponsors of under 17 football team of Botswana. We support them for their coaching and other facilities. Then we donated $1 million for the Youth Olympics, which took place here.
Yes. Okay. And of course, you donated to the COVID fund. I think
COVID fund.
Newspapers mentioned it.
All our companies put together will come close to where I am a shareholder, major shareholder, or a significant shareholder. That donation will be coming closer to 20 million pula.
Okay, wonderful. Now, just to the entrepreneurs who may be listening, what more can you tell them about the importance of giving back? You know, whether it's what do they call social responsibility, you know, social corporate responsibility or something else. What importance do you attach to giving back to the community from which you make your money?
What makes your brand strong? What is the brand strength? It's the support of the community. What else is there? The brand is built by the community. It's not built by your intelligence or your brilliance. Okay, it is built on the support of the communities. There is a community behind every brand.
Yes.
So it's important you take care of those communities when you move on, and that's what we experience the same thing. Okay, this is the biggest brand in this region. If you take the support of the community, we got the biggest support.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, so that's why wherever possible we play as community play a role. It's very, very important.
Wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about your expansion to Eastern Africa. I had the privilege of traveling to Tanzania, and I saw CHOPPIES here and there. Tell us about the expansion to that part of the world, and how challenging has it been there compared to Southern Africa, compared to Botswana?
Look, it has been a tough journey. We had more issues in the board than in the business. Okay, that's why we had to sell the businesses. Okay, South African business, we sold it to an operator in South Africa, and Tanzania and Kenya we closed it down because that is the time CHOPPIES had this board issues, and we had this all the corporate governance issues are all surrounding us. So we thought it is the ideal thing to concentrate and consolidate in a place in Botswana and surrounding areas.
Yes.
Now we operate in Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Namibia. 4 countries.
Those 4 countries.
Yes.
Is there any prospect once the boardroom battles are settled of you going back to to those places?
I'm not ruling out anything, but at the same time, we got lots of opportunities in these areas where we are operating, segments we are operating, and the board has to make a call when the appropriate time comes.
Okay, now I want to ask about shareholder value. How does Choppies continue to maximize shareholder value in the company, especially now that you've you've sorted out your boardroom situations, accepting that there's a liquidity problem in the Botswana market. You know, it's a fairly illiquid market.
Yes.
Very slow market. So how do you maximize shareholder value, and how do you make it maximize? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Maximize for the shareholder.
Okay. There's an inherent problem in Botswana whereby the institutions just buy the shares and sit back. They are sort of a long-term partner,
like pension funds.
Pension fund. But bearing that in mind, we got a secondary listing in South Africa in JSE. So that will play a major role in bringing the liquidity into the business. But my view is that even within Botswana, a portion of the shares should be for long term, a portion should be for short term, so that institutions also play the dual role.
Yes,
instead of just sitting yes, exactly, and on a long term basis, there should be a portion which is for short term, and it should be that will give a lot of liquidity, and liquidity means a lot of companies will come forward and list the shares, and that will give a lot of economic impetus into the country. As we have to do that eventually to become a player. We need to get a very liquid stock exchange as well.
Okay. Now, to somebody who might be trying to grow their business, are there any advantages that you see in a company going public? And has going public been, since 2012, I believe, been a good move for Choppies?
Look, it is always good especially when you got a long-term plan and you need to make your company to survive in perpetuity. The listing is the ideal route. Okay, because although even if none of us are here, Choppies will be always be here in the market, and it will be a legacy forever.
Yes. But are there any downsides? Are there any negatives? Because some people are concerned about being scrutinized too much by the market.
If you run a business in a professional way, you don't need to be worried about scrutiny. That's part of normal life. And with this new world, where everything is transparent, so there is absolutely no worry for any scrutiny.
Okay. There are some big players who are competing against Choppies. I mean, I think even Game was bought by a large conglomerate, bought by Walmart. Looking forward, does it look as if there's a threat from some of these big players, or Choppies is now well positioned in the long term, looking long term?
Look, it's a very dynamic industry. Changes will come, and we can't predict for too long, because there's one threat is always this online trading.
Yes.
So this will be the last industry to get affected, the groceries. But even then, we can't wipe out a possibility of somebody coming and taking over. This is a reality. We need to live with that. But we sustained ourselves so far, and we'll try to sustain ourselves as a local player wherever possible.
Speaking of online, some of the players have moved online, because take for instance Amazon.com and others, they're doing very much well on. Has Choppies repositioned itself online?
Yes, we do. And have
what is available?
There's an online trading is available. We are busy sorting out our payment gateway. Once that is sorted out, even payment can be done also through a payment gateway or a transaction solution platform.
So is it an app?
It's an app. The app is already up.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Do you want to talk a little bit about your other business interests and help the viewer understand how they interrelate with Choppies? Because my impression from where I'm sitting is that you've created an ecosystem where Choppies has businesses that support it.
We had a lot of supply chain businesses. I had to sell it because of the listing requirements. So it is sold. I'm only a minority shareholder, but those businesses are doing well. Then we got a property company, which is also listed. Okay. Then
Far Property.
Far Property Company. And we do have a few other manufacturing businesses, small scale.
Yes.
Eventually, we'll scale them up. And
as a person from a property background, I'm curious how your property side has been hit by all this COVID and what's the outlook for the future?
Yes, again, currently it is hit hardly by the pandemic, but I'm a positive thinker and an optimist, and I always maintain that this will come back.
Okay. What I've noticed about you, Mr. Ram, is that you work very hard. I've had instances where I'd have meetings with you at the office, and then in the evening around 8, 9, when I go to the supermarket, I see you there walking around. I say, do you have an extraordinary amount of energy, or what is it
I
about?
enjoy what I do.
Yes.
That's one line answer. Enjoy what I do, and it's not work for me, it's life for me. So whether you get rewarded or not rewarded, you enjoy what you do. Then,
so your work is your play.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So the two have blended. Now, as we come to the end of our conversation, Mr. Ram, I would like to look at the camera and share with the viewers what is it about Choppies. In fact, the question I'm putting to you: what sets apart a successful entrepreneur in the context of Choppies from others who try and give up and don't go all the way? I think that's one message you can give to the people around that question.
Success and failure is part of the same coin. Okay? Don't get disheartened by a small setback. You concentrate and you put your effort beyond anything, okay? And you will be rewarded. It may not be short term, but eventually you do things the right way and you get rewarded. And don't get disappointed, disheartened, and don't expect anything as a support from anybody. Whether it is anything, you don't expect any support. You say that I'm going to make it, and you have to make it. Then you will make it. That's very important.
I think that also helps to avoid disappointments, because you know you depend, you take responsibility. If the support comes, it's a bonus.
Yeah. If you make sin, you need to eat that sin. There is no doubt about it.
Okay.
And if you work hard, you will get rewarded.
All right. Now, if some of the listeners may wish to get in touch with you, perhaps they want to take this conversation further. More importantly, they want to take advantage of your services and your companies. How do they reach you, Mr. Ram? That's probably a silly question because everybody knows you, but still.
They can send me an email, ram@choppies.co.bw. That's the easiest email you can remember.
Okay. The last favor, do you want to tell the viewer, please, to subscribe to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast and tell them why it's an advantage for them to do so?
I just want, before concluding, I want to mention something about Mr. Mogobe. Okay, as an entrepreneur, I got the greatest respect for him. I've seen him growing, also from very humble beginnings, and I used to tell my other lawyer friends that watch out this man. He is made up to be a great success story in this country. He is so meticulous on what he does, and he is going to make it a big way. And you must all look up to him for emulating his success.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ram. I appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.